In terms of the Māori people, they lost a lot of land. All that was taken off them. However, in this day and age, there are some tribes in New Zealand that have reclaimed that land through what we call the Treaty of Waitangi. And that has given the Māori people a lot of land back in our country.
How long were the colonizers in your country?
Gee, that's a bit of a tough question. They were there in the 1800s. They left, if I'm correct, they left around about the beginning of the 1900s.
Hi, my name is Eva Leah, and our next question is, what were the colonizers after?
Gee, that's another tough question. Okay, they were after land mostly. The settlers came in from England and they needed land to grow crops and, that was their way of living. So they were after land. When they got to New Zealand, they realised how fertile the land was in our country. And that was the big draw card for them. So that's what they were more interested in that than anything else. Okay. And to the European people, that money was their lifeline. Whereas to Māori people, land was something very, very special to them. And that was what we call a taonga.
How did your people deal with the colonization?
How did we deal with the colonization? It was very difficult way back in the 1800s because you can understand that they had their own language, they had their own culture, and they did things their way. And then when the Europeans came in, it was a different kind of, a whole different culture that they had to understand. A lot of it was where the language was taken off them. There were times that when Māori children went to school, that was called native schools at that time, but they had European people teaching there, and they weren't allowed to speak Māori. And my father actually comes from that generation. He was a very fluent speaker. He could kōrero Māori on the pai, on the marae, but he never handed that down to us and the family, because he was one of the children that in that time when he went to school, and he was not allowed to speak Māori, so he didn't want his children to go through that as well.